The morning light cut sharp angles across my kitchen floor, casting long shadows that seemed to mirror the fractures in my life. I stared into my coffee, watching the steam curl upward like whispered secrets. Secrets I'd been forced to confront over the past 8 months. Michael had always been calculated. Even our marriage had been a carefully constructed performance. The successful corporate lawyer and the dedicated elementary school teacher, picture perfect from the outside. But perfection, I was learning, was nothing more than an elaborate illusion. The first hint of his betrayal came on a crisp October evening. I was grading papers at our dining room table when a text notification flashed on his forgotten work phone. Curiosity, or perhaps something deeper, a subconscious intuition, made me look. The message from Diane was anything but professional. "Can't wait to see you tonight. The hotel is booked." My hands trembled as I opened their message thread. Weeks of intimate exchanges unfolded before me, each message a surgical slice through the fabric of our supposed commitment. Multiple affairs, not just one moment of weakness, but a calculated series of deceptions spanning years. Emma, our 10-year-old daughter, found me that night, tears streaming down my face, surrounded by scattered student worksheets and shattered dreams. She didn't ask questions. Instead, she wrapped her thin arms around me, her touch more comforting than any words could be. "It's going to be okay, Mom," she whispered. Michael moved out 2 weeks later, cold and efficient. His departure felt more like a business transaction than the dissolution of a 12-year marriage. He'd already secured an aggressive divorce lawyer, a shark named Richard Holloway, known for decimating opponents in court. My own attorney, Rebecca Martinez, was different. Sharp but compassionate, she understood this wasn't just about legal victory, but about preserving our dignity. "We need documentation," she told me during our first serious strategy meeting. "Every financial record, every communication that shows his pattern of deception." I became a meticulous collector of evidence. Bank statements revealing hidden expenditures, hotel receipts, suspicious expense reports. Each document was another piece of a complex puzzle revealing Michael's true character. The most painful revelation wasn't the affairs themselves, but how systematically he had planned to minimize my financial support and parental rights. He wanted to paint me as unstable, financially dependent, a narrative that would strip away everything I'd built. Emma watched this transformation quietly. She was perceptive beyond her 10 years, absorbing every subtle shift in our family's tectonic plates. I worried about the impact on her, but she remained resilient, her quiet strength becoming my unexpected anchor. As the divorce hearing approached, I knew this would be more than a legal proceeding. This would be a battle for our future, for Emma's perception of trust, love, and family. Michael's lawyer would try to break me, to reduce years of dedication to a series of calculated legal maneuvers. Little did they know, I was no longer the woman who would silently accept being defined by someone else's narrative. The full extent of Michael's betrayal didn't emerge all at once. It was a slow, painful unraveling, like watching a carefully woven tapestry come apart thread by thread. Diane Parker was more than just a casual affair. She was Michael's senior associate at Reynolds and Crawford, the prestigious law firm where he'd been a partner for the past 8 years. Their relationship wasn't a momentary indiscretion, but a calculated long-term connection that predated our marriage's final years. I discovered the depth of their involvement through a series of careful investigations. Rebecca helped me navigate the legal boundaries, ensuring every piece of evidence would be admissible in court. Each revelation was a punch to my gut. Phone records showed late-night calls stretching back 5 years, precisely 2 years after Emma was born. Text messages painted a graphic picture of their intimacy. Expense reports revealed business trips that were actually romantic getaways, Hotel bookings, restaurant receipts, conference registrations, all carefully documented evidence of their ongoing relationship. But Diane was just the tip of the iceberg. Another woman emerged, Jessica Rodriguez, a marketing consultant Michael had met at a corporate retreat 3 years ago. Their communication was more sporadic but equally intimate. Emails revealed a pattern of calculated emotional manipulation that made my skin crawl. What hurt most wasn't just the multiple affairs. It was the systematic way Michael had compartmentalized his life. To the outside world, he remained the perfect family man. Professional, successful, seemingly devoted. Our social media portrayed a picture of marital bliss that now felt like an elaborate performance. Emma was my silent witness through it all. She noticed things, the tension, the hushed phone calls, the subtle changes in Michael's behavior. One evening, while we were sorting through old family photos, she looked up at me with eyes far too wise for her 10 years. "Mom," she said quietly, "Dad hasn't been happy for a long time, has he?" Her observations stunned me. Children see more than adults realize, catching emotional undercurrents invisible to those too close to the storm. Michael's financial deception ran deeper than the affairs. Bank statements revealed hidden accounts, strategic transfers that suggested he'd been planning this separation for years. He wasn't just leaving our marriage, he was engineering a calculated exit that would minimize his financial responsibilities. His strategy was clear: portray me as an unstable, financially dependent spouse who was unable to provide a stable environment for Emma. Professional records showing my teaching salary would be weaponized to suggest I couldn't maintain our lifestyle. Every aspect of my life would be scrutinized, dissected, and potentially used against me. Rebecca warned me to prepare for a brutal legal battle. "Michael's firm specializes in high-stakes divorces," she explained. "They'll try to break you psychologically before the first legal document is even filed." I understood then that this wasn't just a divorce. This was a war, and I was preparing to fight with every ounce of strength I possessed. The most dangerous weapon in my arsenal? The truth. And a daughter who was about to change everything. Knowledge, I was learning, was more than power. It was survival. Rebecca Martinez became my strategic partner, guiding me through a meticulously planned counteroffensive. Every document, every communication would be our armor. We spent weeks organizing evidence, creating a comprehensive timeline of Michael's duplicity. My first step was financial reconstruction. I documented every expense, every contribution to our family's life. Teaching might not have paid as much as corporate law, but I'd been the consistent financial and emotional backbone of our home. Bank statements, tax returns, receipts, each became a weapon. Emma became an unexpected ally in this preparation. She was observant, collecting subtle details without fully understanding their significance. A forgotten receipt in Michael's old jacket. A strange email left open on a shared tablet. Her keen 10-year-old eyes caught things adults would miss. "Mom," she'd say casually, "I found this weird paper in Dad's briefcase when he was packing." Each piece of information was carefully logged, dated, verified. Rebecca taught me the importance of documentation. "In divorce cases," she explained, "context is everything. We're not just proving infidelity, we're demonstrating a pattern of systematic deception." My support network became crucial. My sister, Rachel, a forensic accountant, helped me trace financial irregularities. My parents provided emotional support, watching Emma during late-night strategy sessions. Friends offered childcare, moral support, and sometimes just a listening ear. I began recording everything: conversations with Michael, interactions about Emma, financial discussions, all documented with Rachel's guidance. We discovered discrepancies in his reported income, unexplained expenses, potential tax irregularities that could become significant during divorce proceedings. Professional reputation became a key battlefield. Michael believed his corporate connections would intimidate me, but I understood something he didn't. Integrity has its own power. My years of teaching, my consistent professional record, my dedication to Emma, these were weapons more powerful than his legal maneuvering. Emma's emotional preparation was equally important. We had honest, age-appropriate conversations about the upcoming legal process. I wanted her to understand without being overwhelmed. Some people might say mean things, I explained one evening, but our love for each other is stronger than any words. She listened intently, her young face a mixture of determination and vulnerability. "I want to help, Mom," she'd say, her small hand squeezing mine. Rebecca helped me understand the psychological warfare ahead. Michael's lawyer would attempt to portray me as unstable, financially dependent, an inadequate mother. We prepared counterarguments for every potential attack. My consistent employment, my excellent teaching evaluations, my complete financial transparency. "They'll try to break you," Rebecca warned. "Our job is to make sure they can't." As the divorce hearing approached, I realized I was no longer the woman Michael thought he could easily manipulate. I was a mother, a professional, a survivor, and I was ready. The storm was coming. And I would not just weather it, I would triumph. The courthouse felt like an arena of judgment. Marble floors reflected harsh fluorescent lights, and the air was thick with tension. Michael sat across the room, immaculate in a tailored gray suit, his lawyer Richard Holloway beside him, a predator waiting to strike. Richard Holloway was everything Rebecca had warned me about: tall, silver-haired, with the calculated precision of a surgeon and the ruthlessness of a shark. His initial approach was subtle, designed to unsettle me before the actual cross-examination began. "Mrs. Mitchell," he began, his voice smooth as polished stone, "let's discuss your professional capabilities." The questioning started with my teaching career. Each question was a calculated probe designed to expose perceived weaknesses. How many sick days had I taken? Were there any complaints from parents? Had I ever been reprimanded? I remained calm, Rebecca's coaching evident in every measured response. Each answer was factual, direct, backed by documentation. But Holloway was just warming up. "Your financial records show minimal savings," he pressed. "How do you intend to support your daughter without your husband's substantial income?" The implication was clear. I was financially incompetent, a burden rather than a capable parent. Emma sat quietly beside my mother, her eyes never leaving me. I could feel her watching, supporting me silently. Holloway's next attack was more personal. He produced a series of text messages and emails, carefully selected to paint me in the worst possible light. Moments of frustration, angry exchanges with Michael, conversations taken completely out of context. "Is this how a stable parent communicates?" he asked, each word dripping with condescension. Rebecca objected repeatedly, but the damage was psychological. The courtroom felt like an echo chamber of my supposed failures. Michael sat impassively, a calculated mask of detachment. Then came the most devastating line of questioning about my parenting. Holloway suggested that my emotional instability made me an unfit mother. He brought up a single incident from 2 years ago, a moment of depression I'd battled after a challenging school year for which I'd sought professional counseling. "A teacher who cannot manage her own emotional state," he declared, "can hardly be trusted to raise a child." The courtroom seemed to hold its breath. I felt the weight of judgment, the potential of losing everything. Years of dedication, love, sacrifice, reduced to a performance on this cold marble stage. Emma had been silent until this moment. Suddenly, she stood up. The entire courtroom turned. A 10-year-old girl, small but incredibly present, walking toward the center of the room. The bailiff started to move, but something in her demeanor stopped him. "Excuse me," Emma said, her voice clear and surprisingly steady. "I would like to speak." Holloway looked momentarily stunned. The judge, an older woman with sharp eyes, leaned forward. "Young lady," the judge said, "this is a formal proceeding." "I know," Emma responded, "and I have something important to say about my mother." The silence was absolute. Michael shifted uncomfortably. Holloway looked like he'd been unexpectedly checkmated in a game he thought he was winning. Emma turned, facing the entire courtroom. Her small frame seemed to grow, filled with a certainty that belied her age. "My mom," she began, "is the strongest person I know." Emma's declaration hung in the courtroom like a suspended thunderbolt. The judge's eyebrow arched, a mix of curiosity and surprise crossing her weathered features. Richard Holloway looked momentarily paralyzed, his carefully constructed narrative suddenly threatening to unravel. "I want to tell you something," Emma continued, her voice gaining strength with each word. "About my father." Michael's composure cracked. For the first time that day, genuine fear flickered across his face. He glanced nervously at his lawyer, a silent plea for intervention. But Emma was just getting started. She produced a small notebook from her backpack, a journal I didn't know she had been keeping. The bailiff looked to the judge, who nodded almost imperceptibly, allowing the unexpected testimony to continue. "Last summer," Emma began, "I overheard a conversation between my father and Diane. They were talking about something called the Henderson account." The courtroom held its collective breath. Even Rebecca looked surprised, leaning forward with unexpected intensity. Emma read from her meticulously documented notes. She described a conversation she had accidentally overheard during a family vacation, a phone call Michael believed was private. The details were startlingly specific. Dates, amounts, references to financial transactions that sounded distinctly illegal. "Dad was discussing moving money," Emma explained. "He said something about protecting the assets and keeping it off the books." Michael's lawyer attempted to object, but the judge silenced him with a sharp glance. A 10-year-old's potentially inadvertent testimony was creating seismic shifts in the proceedings. The Henderson account, as Emma's notes revealed, was not a legitimate business transaction. Her detailed recollection suggested a complex financial manipulation, potential tax fraud that extended far beyond marital assets. Rebecca's eyes were alive with professional excitement. These weren't just the ramblings of a child. These were precise, documented observations that demanded immediate legal scrutiny. "Can you tell me exactly what you heard?" the judge asked Emma, her tone serious but not intimidating. Emma proceeded to recount the conversation with remarkable detail. She repeated phrases verbatim, described the context, and provided timestamps that correlated with specific dates in Michael's work calendar. Michael's complexion had gone from confident to ashen. Holloway was furiously scribbling notes, trying to construct a defense against a testimony he never anticipated. The financial implications were profound. What Emma had inadvertently documented suggested a pattern of financial misconduct that extended far beyond their marriage: tax irregularities, potential corporate fraud, hidden assets. "I started writing things down," Emma explained simply, "because something always felt wrong." Her statement was both innocent and devastating. A child's intuition had unraveled a sophisticated web of deception that professional investigators might have missed. The judge called for a recess, requesting immediate financial documentation from Michael's firm. Rebecca was already preparing additional subpoenas, her fingers flying across her tablet. building a case that went far beyond a simple divorce proceeding. Michael was escorted out, no longer the confident corporate lawyer. He looked diminished, stripped of the carefully constructed persona he had maintained for years. Emma returned to my side, sliding her hand into mine. No words were necessary. In that moment, she had done more than defend me. She had exposed a truth that would change everything. The courtroom felt different now, charged with a new energy of revelation and potential justice. The weeks following the divorce hearing transformed our lives like a hurricane reshaping a landscape. What began as a personal battle became a complex legal investigation that would reverberate through Michael's professional and personal world. The Henderson account became the epicenter of a storm that Michael could no longer contain. Federal investigators became interested in the financial discrepancies Emma had inadvertently exposed. Reynolds and Crawford, Michael's prestigious law firm, initiated an internal investigation that would ultimately lead to his complete professional downfall. I watched the unraveling with a mixture of vindication and unexpected compassion. This wasn't about revenge, it was about truth finding its inevitable path. Rebecca explained the legal implications over coffee one crisp morning. The financial misconduct goes beyond divorce proceedings, she said, her eyes bright with professional satisfaction. We're looking at potential criminal charges. Michael's carefully constructed world began to crumble. The firm suspended him pending investigation. His professional network, once a fortress of connections, now resembled a house of cards collapsing in slow motion. Colleagues who had once celebrated his success now distanced themselves, protecting their own reputations. The divorce settlement transformed dramatically. What Michael had initially planned as a strategic dismantling of our shared life became a legal nightmare for him. Hidden assets were exposed. His attempts to minimize financial support were not just defeated, they were thoroughly demolished. Emma became my unexpected hero. Her testimony had not just defended me, it had fundamentally altered the trajectory of our lives. Child psychologists were amazed by her remarkable composure, her ability to document complex conversations with precision that most adults couldn't achieve. "You've been incredibly brave," I told her one evening as we sat together reviewing her school project. She looked up, her eyes wise beyond her years. "I just told the truth, Mom." Truth, I was learning, was a powerful weapon, more effective than any legal strategy, more cutting than any calculated manipulation. My teaching career, which Michael's lawyer had attempted to portray as a liability, became a source of strength. The school administration rallied around me. Parents of my students sent messages of support. My professional reputation, far from being damaged, seemed to shine even brighter. Financial recovery was challenging, but not impossible. The settlement, now significantly more favorable, combined with potential damages from the ongoing investigation, provided a stable foundation. Rachel, my forensic accountant sister, helped me navigate the complex financial landscape. Michael's relationship with Diane disintegrated under the weight of the investigation. The affair that had seemed so calculated, so perfectly managed, crumbled like a structure built on sand. She distanced herself, protecting her own professional interests. Emma's relationship with her father became complicated. He attempted contact, but the trust was irreparably broken. She was old enough to understand the depth of his betrayal, yet young enough to still feel the pain of a father's rejection. "I don't hate him," she told me one night. "I just don't want him in my life right now." Her emotional maturity was both a blessing and a heartbreak. The legal proceedings continued for months. Each hearing, each deposition, became another layer of revelation. Michael's attempts to control the narrative were systematically dismantled. The man who had once seemed invincible now appeared broken, a shadow of his former confident self. Our support network became our lifeline. My parents, my sister, close friends, they surrounded us with a protective embrace. Emma found strength in her school counselor, in her friends, in the stability we created together. "We're going to be okay," I would tell her. And with each passing day, I believed it more deeply. The transformation wasn't just legal or financial. It was profoundly personal. I rediscovered parts of myself that had been dormant during my marriage: creativity, resilience, a sense of self-worth that couldn't be diminished by anyone's judgment. Emma watched this transformation, learning lessons about strength, integrity, and survival that no classroom could teach. 1 year after the hearing, we took a vacation, just the two of us, standing on a beach, watching the sunset paint the sky in impossible colors. I realized something profound. We hadn't just survived, we had emerged stronger. The waves crashed against the shore, a rhythmic reminder that life, like water, finds its way, sometimes gently, sometimes with incredible force, but always, always moving forward.